Every single day of the week, we release our Central Indiana Scoreboard Show. It's like an ESPN Radio Sports Center that features Central Indiana sports. We focus on the Pacers, Fever, Colts, IndyCar, IU, Purdue, Ball State, Taylor, Indiana Wesleyan, Anderson, IUK, and the best high school sports coverage in Central Indiana. Please join us every day for the Central Indiana Scoreboard Show. What you are listening to now is the Central Indiana Sports Report podcast number 275.2, Indianapolis 500 storylines and predictions, with guests Grant Shouse, Dave Chanley, Heather Abt, Michelle Garmon, and extra special guests Tom and Nancy Mengelt, with their favorite storylines and predictions heading into Sunday's Indianapolis 500.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, Indy 500 fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report Indy 500 preview. I am your host, Greg Mengelt. Producer Susie is popping popcorn. Today is May 23rd, 2025. It's a Friday. It's another day for Central Indiana sports. That means it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. My man Grant Shouse is the first man to pop into Riverside and say what's up. Grant, you want to stick with me while I do the lineup, or do you want to, or are you just in for a second?
I'll stay with you.
All right. Front row, Grant may be the craziest qualifying day in Indy 500 history. Robert Schwartzman, who I hadn't heard of before last week, is on the pole. He's a rookie. Not only that, he's on a team that's in its first 500 ever. It's his first 500 ever. And on Monday last week, before qualifying, they couldn't even get him out on the track. They were so far behind. They hadn't even gotten him moved over from the road course to the oval course, and so he wasn't able to run the first day, and somehow they found the exact right formula to put him on the pole in position number one. And, of course, that's one of the stories we'll be looking at. In the middle of row one is Takuma Sato, who has won the 500 twice. On the outside is Pato O'Ward, who has finished second in the 500 twice. On the inside of row two is Scott Dixon, who's won the 500 once, but has been a champion 5 times, I think, 6 maybe. And, of course, is one of the front contenders, Felix Rosenquist, who was the fastest car most of the month and looked like the favorite to win the pole, and then suddenly wasn't when it came time to run the pole, is in the middle of row two.
Wow.
Alex Palou, who's won 4 of the first 5 races this season, has never won the 500. He's never won an oval, but he's been very competitive on oval and is the favorite going into this race. The third row is David Malukas, Christian Lundgaard, and Marcus Ericsson, who won the 500 once and probably got robbed of it once. The row 4 is Scott McLaughlin, Connor Daly, and Alexander Rossi, maybe this family's favorite row of all time, with a McLaughlin from Susie's long cousin family, along with
Connor and
Sydney, along with Sydney McLaughlin and all the kicking McLaughlins, and they're all related. Connor Daly from Noblesville is officially our guy on the Central Indiana Sports Report, and Alexander Rossi and Daly were on The Amazing Race, which is one of our favorite TV shows. So, and then row 5 is Kevin Simpson of Ganassi, Ed Carpenter, of course, from Indianapolis, and another favorite of the fans, and Santino Ferrucci, who drives for Foyt and is always good on the oval. 6th row, Devlin DeFrancesco, Stingray Robb, and Christian Matthewson. The next row is Kyle Larson, of course, the NASCAR star who had one 500 where he was very competitive, so look out for him. Louis Foster and Ilot Callum. And then in the next row is Elio Castroneves going for his 5th Indianapolis 500 win, next to Kyle Kirkwood, who's currently second in the IndyCar points, and very talented rookie Nolan Siegel, who's going to be a factor in this race in years to come. Ryan Hunter-Ray is on the inside of row 9, and he had a car fire today that was very dangerous on Carb Day. In the middle of the row is Jack Harvey, who is a part-time pit reporter for the series, and Colton Herta, one of the young guns with O'Ward and Pillow, considered, three of the great up-and-coming drivers. On row 10 is Graham Rahal, Marco Andretti, and Marcus Armstrong, another one of my favorite rows because Rahal and Andretti are two of my favorites. Great guys. And on the last row is Renus VK, who's never not started in the first 2 rows until this year when he's starting on the last row. And then the bad boys. They've been sent to their room. Joseph Newgarden and Will Power will start from the very back of the field after getting caught. They didn't. Their teams. Skirting the rules, and everybody got fired except for Newgarden and Power, who had nothing to do with it. People calling him a cheater he had nothing to do with it. But I welcome Grant. What's a storyline or two you'll be looking at as the race approaches?
Well, a couple of them you gave, I didn't even know. The one about, what's his name? Jack Harvey? Is that his name?
Yes.
Part-time pit reporter.
He is.
And is driving in the 500. That may be who I want to win it.
There you go. I get it. He's he on Fox. He is a pit reporter when he's not racing, and so yeah, he might be your guy. He's a very handsome English chap.
Well, that's actually cool that he gets to run the race, and probably is a dream for him. He's probably run it before. I'd like to see him win it now. He probably won't, but you never know. You talk about Joseph Newgarden and Will Power, 2 guys that have been dominant on that course over the last 10 years. 2 guys that have been dominant on that course the last 10 years. So we'll see, but my prediction, I couldn't tell you who's going to win, but my prediction is that I think we'll have a first-time winner of the 500. I don't think it will be someone that has won it before. I don't think Joseph Newgarden will win 3 straight. I don't think Marcus Ericsson is going to win it. I don't think Helio Castroneves is going to be the first to win 5. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be a first-time winner of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And I'm your IU guy, right? We do that
Right.
show. We do that show every week. And if you're an IU fan, you know what the most known street in Bloomington is, and it's Kirkwood Avenue. So maybe Kyle Kirkwood's my guy. I don't know.
And the Andrettis are always good on race day. He's in the back, but the Andretti cars are always good on race day.
Greg, I'm curious, if you're a driver in this 500, obviously it's an honor to start on the pole or start in the front row, but where do you think the ideal starting position is?
Pole?
Obviously.
Okay.
But when it comes down to strategy and it comes down to
I would say
where do you want to run the most of the race at is what I'm asking.
How about this? To avoid any bad things, you want to be in front of all the rookies and guys who you don't trust. Anywhere in that up there, you're fine. So you're talking about, really, you're going back to row 5 before you start to see any rookies or guys who.
Unless you're Robert Schwartzman.
Exactly. That's going to be definitely a storyline. Is he going to be a problem up there? Because he's definitely going to be passed. He's definitely going to be swallowed up by the veterans. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You saw his practice. You saw his practice day times, and he's not going to be as fast as those guys. He's a rookie. He's never been on an oval. Could he be a problem? That could be definite storyline.
I sat in our studio in downtown Marion on Sunday, and I listened to the qualifying. I had to run it on our radio, on our Action Sports Network, where you can listen to a ton of IndyCar stuff, by the way, if people didn't know. On race day, you can listen to it on the Action Sports Network. That's actionsportsnetwork.live. But I was blown away at how enthused Mark Janes, who is the main play-by-play voice of the 500, was just astonished at Robert Schwartzman's times and his speed and all this stuff. And they were shocked that he was going to be running on the pole. Now, you mentioned Felix Rosenqvist as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, he's never won the Indianapolis 500. And I think he could be another favorite. I like Alex Palou to, maybe make some noise and come out on top, given the start he's had this year in IndyCar. It would not shock me if he's not running in that top 3 or 4 come lap 199, 198, even, lap 200. But you talk about these drivers and wanting to avoid rookies and all that stuff. And I know you get this in NASCAR. You get teammates together, or you get guys that trust each other together, and they say, hey, we're going to work together through this. It depends on the course. We're going to work together through this. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I'm going to help you here, help me there. All this
It's
stuff.
way easier to do that in NASCAR than it is IndyCar. But I guarantee you that at least the first part of the race, Joseph Newgarden and Will Power will be teaming up to go through that field. I have a feeling that after the first pit stop, we may see split strategies from them. See one of them try to go through the field and the other one do a fuel save or something like that. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they split those strategies. But early on, there's no doubt those two are going to be coming through the field. And it gets to probably 10, 15 cars before there's a car there that can do anything to keep them behind them. There's no way they'll keep them behind them. So they're going through at least the first 10, 12 cars pretty quickly.
Honestly, Greg, this is going to be my first Indianapolis 500 I've been to in person.
Oh,
I try and watch it every year. And a
Where
few
you
years
sitting?
ago, I realized that if you live within a certain distance of the track, you cannot watch the race unless it's a sellout. Thankfully, this year, and of course, it's the 1 year I'm going, and they know I'm going to see it in person.
You're probably the reason.
The blackout.
You're probably the reason.
There's no question. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you're the one who tipped the scale into the sellout. All right, thanks so much for joining us, Grant, and have a lot of fun and be safe.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Greg, and go Pacers.
Go Pacers. Please stay tuned for Tom and Nancy Mengelt.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Tom and Nancy Mengelt here to make their predictions for the Central Indiana Sports Report. Doc, what was the first Indy 500 you ever went to?
1965.
Was that Jimmy Clark?
Yep, Jimmy Clark. I worked there. A friend of mine had a job there selling tickets in the north field to the infield, and he didn't want to work the race, so I worked for him. His name was Chuck Maxwell, and so I was Chuck Maxwell that day, and we got up on the between the third and fourth turn where there were no bleachers then. You could get right up against the fence and watch the start.
Wow. Great
and
story.
Then someone stole my satchel.
That's right.
With all the money in it, and I had to go after him.
Did you get it back?
I got it back.
Of course you did. No one's outrunning you.
That's right.
No one's outrunning a Mengelt. What are you talking about?
That's right.
All right.
So anyway, that's sort of my story. That was my first race.
You probably went to 20, 25, 30 of them?
Probably more like 20.
Okay. Took me to my first one in 1982. That was very nice of you to get me hooked on that.
Because I was very nice. I couldn't help myself.
I know you couldn't.
Who won
You never
that year?
could. That was Gordon Johncock in the closest Indy 500 of all time.
That's
He
right.
got me
I remember
hooked.
that.
Wow.
It got me hooked for sure. And then
Yeah.
my next question is, or I guess it starts with a statement. When I was a little kid, probably 5, I asked you, was the Indianapolis 500 the biggest race in the world? Do you remember what you said?
No.
You said, well, there are a lot of different races across the world and different. I didn't know there weren't racing. And you said, well, Daytona's big, and Monaco. Then you went, yeah, it's the biggest in the world.
Yeah.
And you're right.
And it
It is.
remains so.
And it remains so. I'm about to have Dave Chanley on, our Indy 500 guy, to talk about his experience. He's gone to maybe just as many, maybe even more than that. We're going to find out from him. All right, Doc and Nancy, I need you to make your predictions and if you have any storylines to watch.
Elio Castroneves, of course, my guy.
Number 5 for Aleo, says Nancy.
Absolutely.
I'm going to pick a dark horse. He's in a good position. Connor Daly.
Oh, he's the official favorite of the Central Indiana Sports Report. So that's a great pick.
Really?
There we go.
I wish I could pick him, but I'm taking Scott Dixon. I think he's due for one, and I just think this is his year. I have a feeling, just a feeling.
Yep, that'll probably that's a good pick.
And if you had a gun to my head, I'd say Alex Below.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's sort of on a hot streak, so
He's a great one. Guys,
yeah.
thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it so much, and I owe you a phone call, Doc.
Okay.
All right. Thanks
We're
so
going to be
much.
watching the Pacers tonight, but you can call.
Please stay tuned for Dave Chanley and Heather Abt.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
We are now 15 minutes from tip-off. Actually, it'll probably be more like 25, but game 2 of the Pacers and Knicks. And now we have our Indy 500 insiders. They were actually there today at Carb Day, Susie. We have Dave Chanley, who we talk to after every IndyCar race about his thoughts on the race, and his granddaughter, Heather Abt, who is maybe even as knowledgeable as he is on the race. And we want to know what their favorite storylines are going into the race, what they're going to be watching. I think they're both going to be there. We'll find out.
We will both be there.
All right.
We just got back. We just got back from Carb Day. It was a beautiful day, and it was just fantastic.
So what are the storylines you're going to be watching on Sunday?
Well, the obvious one, I think, is how quick Newgarden can work his way from the back to the front. That'll be one that everybody's watching, and I'm sure he will eventually get toward the front. I don't know if he can get all the way to the front, but he's going to be a fast car, so we'll have to watch that.
I said earlier that I think that at least the first stint, that Newgarden and Power will work together, work their way through the field. There's nothing the first 10 to 14 cars can do to keep them behind them. But later in the race, they might go split strategy. What do you think?
It would not surprise me. They're obviously going to have Scott McLaughlin on another strategy as well, because he's going to be right up there chasing right at the front. And he looked awfully strong today to me. So, yeah, he'll be a factor.
I think the biggest storyline is definitely going to be Ryan Hunter-Reay, watching him how he recovers after his car caught on fire today at Carb Day, as well as Graham Rahal lost an engine, so they're going to have to repair his car as well. So seeing how they come back on Sunday with not practicing on their new engines.
Yeah, well, how did McLaughlin look today, considering he wrecked the last time he'd driven it?
McLaughlin looked really strong today. He was out for a couple of laps, but they did a lot of coming through the pits today as well during practice.
Dave, how many 500s have you been to?
This will be 40 in a row.
40
I don't know.
in a row.
I don't know how many total I've been to because I've lost count, but my first was in 67. AJ Foyt.
I just talked to my dad, Dave, and his first was 65.
Wow.
But he hasn't been in a while.
Okay.
He took
Well, this is number 40.
Heather, how many have you been to?
This will be my 10th.
Wow.
So this
So you're a
is a big
veteran now.
one. I
You're-
know, yes.
So you must have been like, what, 3 when you first started? Because you look really young.
I was in 5th grade when I went to my first one. It was a field trip for my class.
Wow. Very cool.
Yes. Yeah. And my grandpa tagged along with me, and
I bet
Juan Pablo won that year. And ever since, I've been hooked.
I bet. Dave, who's your
Yes.
pick? Official pick.
I'm going to go with, we got to go down to one. I'm going to go with Pato Award, but just because I really like the dude. He would be a great ambassador for the sport as a winner. And of course, he's going to be up front. So I just hope he can pull it off this year.
Heather, you sticking with your pick?
I really want to go with Scott Dixon here just because he's my favorite driver. But after today's practice, for the 20-lap average, I have to go with Kyle Larson. His car was really strong.
Ooh.
Based on how far he was going. I think Joseph Newgarden was first, as expected. He had the fastest lap as well. But Pato Award didn't run 30 laps altogether. So I guess it's just to see of whose car can last the longest as well as pit stops. So I'm going to go with Kyle Larson here.
Wow, bit of an upset, but I don't think anyone would be really surprised. He's one of the most talented race car drivers in the world, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he was actually really competitive. One, at least, is this his second or third?
This will be his second, and it's his last year doing it as well, unless he gets a re-sign.
No, so he was very competitive last year, at least at one point, right?
Yeah, he got a speeding penalty. He would have been up in the front, I believe, if he didn't get the penalty.
That's right. And that's why, again, I'm going with Scott Dixon. I just think he's due. All the bad luck he's had, all the close calls. He's too good not to get number 2, I think. Of course, I said that about Mario Andretti for about 15 years, and it never happened. But that's kind of my feeling, is that Dixon is due for number 2.
Well, Dixon will be there. I don't think there's any question, and he is just smooth and solid.
Dave, Heather, thank you so much. Where are you guys sitting tomorrow?
We will be sitting up in South Vista, up really high next to the top row. So we see them into 1, all the way out of 2. I've sat there 30-some years in a row, and I just like the seat. So I sat there.
How many of you?
There'll be 4 of us. My daughter's going, and Heather and her boyfriend will be going. So there'll be 4 of us.
All right. Well, guys, have the best time ever and be safe. Appreciate you coming on.
I really enjoy it, Greg. Thank you.
Dave, we're going to do this on Monday. We're going to talk about your experience, right? I hope Heather's with you.
Sounds good.
Please stay tuned for Elwood co-leader and Tipton Tribune sports editor Michelle Garmon.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, Michelle, my sidekick for a lot of days talking sports. She's out at Tri-Central covering softball, but wanted to drop in and give her prediction and what she'll be looking at on Sunday.
I kind of like your pick. I kind of like Dixon. Heather's Kyle Larson. That's kind of nice. I do think he's very talented. It'd be great if he could do it. You know, he's trying to pull off the double that Tony Stewart attempted. I know he's not the only one, but he's the one that
John Andretti, the original.
Yeah, but I think Tony Stewart's the one that had, his oval success was so good before he went to stock cars, and then he came back. But I do think Dixon's going to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if Newgarden is there. And I know we talked earlier, and I said, if I was betting a driver or the field, I would take the field. But I'm going to go with Palou, because no one's talking about him in the 500. And for me, I think that can kind of take off some of the pressure, since he won so many races to start. The eyes aren't on him here, but Ganassi knows the 500, knows the track, knows the race strategy. He's got a great team behind him. So, I would not be surprised at all if he ended up winning, because like I said, I don't think he's the storyline. And I will say this, even though they had to move back to the back, don't count out Will Power because Penske's those drivers are gonna feel like they have something to prove, even though with and everything that went. And I know all that happened the last couple days, and the restructuring of the race team can make a difference. But sometimes when that stuff happens, it you know something positive comes out of that. So I'm hoping it's an exciting race. I look forward to being able to watch the race live and not have to listen to it on the radio. So, and
I'm
not anything against listening to it on the radio, but it is kind of nice live.
I'm so glad someone picked Alex Palou because I didn't want us to look like. Like I said, if I had to pick somebody and like I had to make a bet and it depended, I would pick Palou. He's just so good. My
He
heart
is.
though, and I just think that Scott Dixon is owed one.
Oh,
You know, I
yes,
just
and I'm not. That's why I said I believe he'll be there, and I won't be surprised if he wins. I just and because and he's really kind of another one. Really, when you think about it, Palou and Dixon are sitting in great seats. They're great places because the eyes and the attention aren't on them right now. So that allows them to just prepare for the race. I know they have questions because with Palou, with his success and Dixon's longevity and career and all the success he's had in the past, media members are still after you. But, I haven't really heard much. I haven't heard those two names a whole lot this month of May.
if you could pick the winner, who would it be?
Might be a Daly because they just live around, been so involved with the track, or anybody from Andretti Racing. Just to get an Andretti in victory lane, in a victory lane.
How about Marco? I love Marco. He's one of my favorites.
Oh,
Kyle Kirkwood would be a great young American driver winner, I think. Thank you so much for your time, and appreciate it as always. Go Pacers.
And go the Pacers win. Thank you so much to Grant, Tom, Nancy, Dave, Heather, and Michelle for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report and letting us know what they'll be watching on Sunday and who they think will win. And thank you so much for listening. If you like the Central Indiana Sports Report and think others would like it as well, please share it. Share with everybody. We could really use the help spreading the word about the Central Indiana Sports Report. I humbly thank you in advance. And of course, thank you, Susan. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.